Hi there, and welcome to the 34th episode of Career Stories Live. So today I'm joined by Jill Mooney, who is a nutrition coach and the gut whisperer. So welcome, Jill.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem at all. So we met via an online community group, which we're both members of, which was great. So it's basically a group for writers, and Joe Watson is kind of the facilitator of that group. And I was really interested in what Jillian does, which is kind of nutrition, and booked her for work with me, which was really great. And just thought it'd be really interesting really for other people to understand a bit more about this kind of work, because we've not touched on this in my career story sessions so far. So as always, if you're watching, please do comment to let us know that you're here, where you're joining from. Feel free to ask any questions, share your experience in the comments. And if you're watching on replay, then also leave some comments. So the idea of these lives, for anyone that's not seen them before, I've just been really interested in what people do and why they do it. I like to learn about different roles and career paths, and that's what gave me the idea. So basically, it's really to give people advice on different careers, how to source information, and my guests have been really generous in their advice and their career tips that they have given so far. So we'll hand over then. So can you just give us a little brief intro into what it is you do right now?
Well, right now, this is probably the third chapter in a career path, but it is one that is most near and dear to my heart. My first degree was in sports science, and my second degree was my master's degree was in nutrition. But then I took a wide berth to that. And at this point in my life, I've come back to it for the last, I think I've saved the best for last, actually. So the last 7 years, I have had my storefront up as a nutrition coach and a performance nutritionist. So I do specialize in working with athletes, and more specifically endurance athletes, but all are welcome. And I work from home. All my consults are via Zoom, and I deliver personalized nutrition plans according to people's performance goals. And then I work with them once they have those plans in place. I think what makes the work that I do stand out is I stay alongside them for that month while they implement some of the changes that I've recommended, because there's no point in giving a plan and then stepping aside and letting them get on with it. You know, life and food takes effort and change and organization. And I think that's the piece I'm really intrigued with, actually.
Yeah, no, I have to say, as a customer, it was great to have that level of support. And I know that you offer kind of a constant support in that month, as you just said. And my husband did say to me, yeah, she's got no idea how many questions you're going to ask her, which I did try to contain myself, because I think that's the thing I'm just so interested in. I would always keep asking questions, but I think the support you gave, and like the sending different recipes and different tips for me as vegan as well, is really, really useful. So I would highly, highly recommend it. Wish I'd done it years ago.
I loved all the questions. And the reason I really offer that to people is I get it. You're going to have, if you're invested in your body and your food body performance, and changes are happening as you're changing your diet, one, you want to share that with someone. You're inevitably going to have questions on, how does my body work with this? Why is that happening? Is that really the impact of food or changing my food? And I love that. Because that's someone who's now in the driving seat of their metabolism, and I know that you're more confident that you know how to eat for you, and that's a great joy.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I think even down to I didn't have the particular nut that you recommended, so these are the other options I've got, which one's best? So you would then tell me which nut was the best. So it was brilliant to have that, because I would never know that whatever nut is better for me than a different kind of nut.
Yeah, it's curious knowledge, but it's impactful. And there's always small tweaks you can make in a person's nutrition to give them a sense of their body in a different way, and to signal their body to do something a different way. And particularly in this culture, and particularly for women, I think our relationships to our body has been shifted away from, we're not as confident. Do we really know how we work? Do we know how to eat? Can we get beyond this cultural kind of belief system that we have to restrict calories or restrict stuff? So that I also find intriguing, the beliefs behind how we eat.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, we could carry on talking about that for ages, so I'm going to go on to the next question. So we'll start with early careers. So you've already mentioned your 2 degrees, which is amazing anyway, but early careers, so did you have a job whilst you were at school or at college or at university?
The first the first job I ever had was, I went to Outward Bound as a teenager. I was sent as a teenager. It was kind of like the rite of passage in our family before you went to university, and I loved it. And then I went back the next summer to work in the kitchen just as a cook, because I wanted to, just not as a cook, but as a cook's assistant. Because I just wanted to experience being in the outdoors and sport in that community environment. And I think it was that informed my first degree, going and pursuing sports studies as a degree. I didn't work through that university. My second degree I did in the States. My master's degree was in Seattle in the States, and I cleaned houses for cash my whole way through that, just to make ends meet in the United States, and that was a good experience.
Yeah, excellent. So my sort of follow-on question was, how has that helped you? So I'm guessing working in a kitchen and Outward Bound centres had quite a big impact and help.
Yeah, it really did. It helped me. It really established this idea that I loved working with a community of people. I loved the outdoors. I loved the sporting and performance environment. Now, I didn't go on to really further that piece of it, but it was always there. And now I return to it very, very much so. And I mean, that's an interesting connection.
Good. Okay, excellent. And the point of that question really is, for quite a lot of the work I do is with students, really. So it's about the jobs that you do and kind of picking, as much as you can, picking something that you think is going to be helpful longer term. And I think that's a great example.
Absolutely. And I would just, the one thing I would say is those jobs, I mean, that was a job that I just simply followed my heart with. I had a great experience. I wanted more, but not, so any way I could get involved with it, I got involved with it.
Yes.
So cleaning houses was just a means to an end, but the Outward Bound really was a heartfelt direction that has returned to me.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so how did you get started in your career when you left university? So I guess maybe after the first degree?
After the first, oh my, that takes me back to all the resumes I just blanket sent out. It's a long time ago, but I do remember the kind of anxiety of, okay, what's next? Like, what is next? And I didn't have a career coach I didn't have anyone that could really walk with me along those questions. I remember coming home and then sending out resumes to just all gyms or health clubs or randomly. And I got one back from the Pineapple Fitness Studios in London.
Oh, wow.
And it was because I got that one back, I was like, well, that's it. I'm going to London. And I just picked up from Northern Ireland and just went to London. And, I was at that point in my career, what that was, well, what could go wrong? I'll just do it. And I didn't think too hard about it, and I just did it. And I lived in London, worked at Pineapple for a couple of years. It was fantastic.
Yeah. So what was your role there?
My role there, let me see. My role there was as a fitness instructor. But it was like organizing all the studios and doing the scheduling for the classes and all the instructors that came in. So, I mean, I got to see things like we had this huge studio, and the skaters of Starlight Express would come in. and do a lot of really cool stuff in the studio. So again, I just got myself into a place where it was fitness and performance, whatever capacity, and just started there.
It sounds really exciting. I can remember the Pineapple Dance Company and just, all the girls with leg warmers and all of that kind of stuff. That's what's coming into my head.
It takes you back to the 80s, doesn't it?
Fame.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was like that in so many ways. All the early aerobics was exactly like that. And the classes were full, and we were doing our grapevine, and we had our leotards and tights.
Oh, wow. Excellent. So where did you go to from there?
Well, that's a great question. I think from there, I came from a family that was academic based. So, there was always the next academic piece. And I didn't want to stay kind of in the fitness world the way I was. I wanted another academic piece. So this is where my mother, being Canadian and I have dual citizenship, came in. Right. And I also came from a family that was very supportive of going and studying in other parts of the world, like go and live and experience life and, in other parts of the world. So I applied to do first a master's degree in exercise physiology, because I thought I really want to work with athletes. So I need a further education to do that. And maybe I can do fitness testing with Olympic athletes or whatever. And I got in to the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, where I had an uncle. So I flew over to do that. That degree didn't work out because I had this sudden change of heart. And it truly was just this change of heart where when I was in Vancouver, I picked up a magazine and I saw a master's degree in nutrition. Right. And I thought, no, that's what I want to do. That's what I want that. And it was one of those moments of life that just, it turned on a dime. Every fiber of my being knew I should do that. And I didn't stop to think about it. I applied. This was down in Seattle, and I had the wherewithal to apply to the school, apply for a student loan from Canada to go to the States. And I just landed in Canada, and I just got everything together and just got in a car and drove down to Seattle and said to the school, I need to come and study here. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. That's
and
amazing.
I made myself
my
wherewithal to do that, but I did. And that was that. I enrolled, I got my student loans that were expensive, and it took me a long time to pay them back, but it was worth it.
Yeah, that's good. And it's a lesson, isn't it? It's not always a bad thing to give up on a degree, because something better might be around the corner. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it would be one of those things that I think of myself today. I've had a few, to be honest, I've had a few instances where I've made split decisions and followed my heart, and it's actually never let me down. It's never let me down.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. So on your LinkedIn profile, you've got kind of a few roles within the pharmaceutical healthcare sector. Is that what you did after your second degree, or was there something else in between?
After my second degree, which I graduated from the US. I then came back to Ireland, opened up a private practice in nutrition for about 3 years.
Right.
And you know what? That actually was a terrific experience. I was in my mid to late 20s, or my late 20s, and that was my first experience at running my own business, and totally different environment back then. It was the early 90s, but I was the only person doing what I was doing, and I was busy enough and I was making it, but I wasn't happy living in Northern Ireland at the time.
Right. Okay.
And I had gotten very North Americanized living in Seattle. And I was at that age where I could see the lifestyle in North America, and I wanted that. And And so I went back to Canada because I had the citizenship and I wanted the lifestyle. It was the right time of my life to do it. And that's when I got into, first of all, nutraceuticals. So
Okay.
I used the nutrition piece to get into selling pharmaceutical grade nutritional supplements. But
Right. Okay.
there I went into pharmaceuticals and specialized in biotech. And that was because I had the science background.
Right. Okay.
That I gained access to that. And, you know, it was a fantastic, and I was with the same company for 15 odd years. Really enjoyed my experience in corporate, really enjoyed the travel, really enjoyed the science, but I did a lot of different roles in that company,
Yeah.
learned many different kind of skills that I
Yeah.
know I had.
Yeah.
A few people that really believed in me and really pushed me into skills that I really didn't believe I could develop, but I
Mm.
did. Did very, very well. And then when that part of the career was over, that was over. And then I'm now in the current iteration of my career.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. That's the thing. I think there's so much you learn from the corporate world, isn't there? And I think, I worked in financial services, so a different sector, but for 12 years, and I would say the stuff that I learned there, I'm still using all the time, because it's
Right.
just so useful.
Yeah. And I would say there was a perfect time in my life to be doing, I covered, Canada's a big country, and I covered all of the states from, or all of the provinces, and I traveled a lot. I was exposed to a lot of different customer types, and it gave me oodles of confidence. And I'd agree with you. There's not a day goes by that I don't use skills in my own business, in my
Yeah,
own brand building. And I wouldn't be a specialist in marketing or brand building at all. I mean, I'm a nutritionist, but I have
yeah,
enough of all of that, having been in corporate, to make it
yes,
work. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's good. Interesting what you just said about Canada being a massive country. I hadn't really appreciated how big it was until I was watching. Have you seen that Race Across the World
Yeah.
program? Yeah.
Yes.
And it was just in Canada. And when it came out, I'm thinking, why is it just in one country? But wow, it looked really
It's
cool. Yeah.
It's, and what a great country
Mm.
to move to as well,
Yes.
because it has this huge geographical mass, but it doesn't have the people.
Yeah.
America would have 40 million people. Canada has like less than 40 million people with the same land
Wow.
mass. So you have amazing landscapes and,
Yeah.
wonderful cities, but not hugely big, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I would go back as often as I can, and I miss it
Mm.
terribly. I really
Yeah.
do.
I bet. Yeah. We've not been yet, but that's definitely one to do for sure. Okay, so you just kind of touched on after that part of your career. This is when you did what you did now. So when was it that you decided to set up your business, and was it daunting? Was it a daunting move at the time?
There was a number of things happened at the end of kind of my Canadian my time in Canada was coming to a close. It I was there with my sister. My sister died of ovarian cancer
Oh no.
in 2015, and I was her primary caregiver, to see her through. That was a hugely traumatic and an immense experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I knew I could not go back to life the way it was. I couldn't go back to,
Mm,
and I just, some people had said to me, "Oh, that's how you feel now. That will change, and you'll go back to life." And I knew intuitively
mm,
that will never change for me. I need to do something different. So, I had always come home to Ireland every year to visit my parents, and I wanted to I was moving in my corporate sphere at the time to come back, to go through the channels to actually come back within the company to Ireland. And I had been part of talent management plan to do that, and there was a plan set up, but I was one of these situations that, I just need to go now, and I just need some
mm,
time. And at the same time that was happening, I reconnected with one particular client from the nutrition world that I'd always been sort of party to, that said, you know what, there's a great need for someone with your skill set with around performance. Come and do that. And you know what? It was enough of a lifeline for a reason for me to say, you know what, I'm going to go home. My dad was at the end stages of prostate cancer, and I wanted to spend some time there too with him. And I did come home and looked around, started looking at the ultra race scene, the ultra endurance race scene here, which was really growing. And I think adventure racing is big everywhere.
Yeah.
And endurance events are intriguing. And I thought, you know what, there is a lack of someone talking sense here.
Mm.
And sports industry is so full of marketing, so full of this product for that, and people don't have a basic understanding of how you function with energy production and anyway, all that stuff. And I thought, no, that's a niche I could take on. Started 2016 there, and I felt very vulnerable around it because I was still hurting from my sister. I was in a totally new country, and I was starting to put myself out there and not quite sure bit of a culture shock coming back home, not quite sure how to present myself. But just started going to races with my now husband, who is an ultra cyclist, and really doing a lot of roads, really learning about this community of people. I started talking about what I was doing with Joe on social media and started to get people asking, can you do that for me? Okay, now I've tested the niche. The niche is there. There is a need. And that's when we built our first kind of commercial website. And I would say it took that was 2016. I would say I'm starting to really fly with it from 2021. So in the last couple of years that I'm confident this is my niche. I'm as good as anyone else in this niche about understanding what's happening with you, and what we can do to fix it. And I've done a lot of racing with my husband on the real ultra endurance world. I'm finding new ways into the endurance, adventure racing, and ultra running. Yourself as a marathon runner, and finding other niches now that we've talked about body composition work with menopausal women. I do a lot of different health stuff. People are just coming because there's nowhere else for them to go, asking me, do I do this kind of work? And I do, because the body's a closed system. Health is health.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think there's some amazing kind of lessons and advice in there about instinct as well. I think, you were saying that you knew something had to change. And I know certainly that's been the same for me. I've had a couple of pretty traumatic instances, and both times I've made quite significant changes in my career. And I think, like you say, you do have people saying, no, you'll be fine, it will all be fine. But actually, if you know in yourself that something needs to change for whatever reason, you need to follow that, don't you?
I would agree with that. And I would also say that came at a big cost to me financially. And there are days particularly when I feel, what does this month look like financially? There are days when I think, oh God, it would be so great being back in corporate because I never have to worry about that. And I have wobbles like that. And I think everyone does. And
definitely.
That's normal. But I do think that instinct that's what makes a life as opposed to a career. I always wanted a life and a career as opposed to just a career, but having to give up really meaningful parts of my life. That was never the goal for me. And I think it was knowing that about myself that And I had also saved enough money through my corporate world that allowed
Mm.
me to do that. And I would say that
Yes.
to anybody is
Yes.
when it's good, save a little bit, because there
Yeah.
may be a time when you have to jump and you're gonna need it.
Yes, absolutely. That's really good advice. And yeah, likewise, the last big decision I made, I know lots of people thought I was crazy because it was cutting off a big income stream, but
Have you
I knew
regretted
I
it?
had to. Yeah, sorry.
Have you regretted it?
No, not at all. Not at
There you
all.
go.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna conscious of time now. It's flying by. So, so you talk in your headline about being the gut whisperer. So what do you mean by that?
Oh, I love that moniker. So many athletes run into gut problems, whether it
Mm.
is nausea, um, bloating. The further you go in performance, so the further you go in terms of like mileage, the more
Yeah,
complicated fueling gets. And it's not so much about fueling, but it's about how to work with your body and your gut to make sure that the food you're eating is getting to the right places. And this is where the sports marketers have created my business for me,
mm,
because they really don't know how to fuel a gut, whereas
yes,
I do.
yeah,
So it only takes one really bad episode of nausea in the middle of an Ironman or in the middle of an ultra endurance race for an athlete to contact me, because they never want to go through that again.
yeah, I can
Uh,
imagine. Yeah,
and I think one of my great strengths is I have a fascination with the gut. I think the gut is an amazing organ that
mm,
is the most rate limiting factor in performance, because
mm,
we literally create our bodies, our energy through what we ingest through this
mm,
open tube. Has to get across an open tube into your body, and then your body makes itself from it. And if
yeah,
you really think about that, that's an amazing piece of machinery
mm,
to take.
yeah,
That baked potato you're eating will be broken down into essential components, and the energy extracted from the bonds of that food will be the energy you use to power yourself. It's like, what? That's amazing.
yeah,
So I've done a lot of research on gut function, and how to work with it to support performance. So when
yeah,
I call myself the gut whisperer, it's if you have a problem with your gut performing, come talk to me. I'll figure it
yeah,
out. You have to be a gut detective a lot of the time.
yeah. Amazing. And again, there's loads more you could talk about in terms of that. Because I know I've read lots of things about the gut being like a second brain, and
Yes.
there's so
Yeah.
much to understand, isn't there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so true. I mean, that is, we make ourselves through our guts. Your
Mm,
gut is a vital organ that doesn't get enough credit, I think.
no, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to skip a few questions. I'm just going to go on to value. So most people that I've spoken to have talked about their values somehow when they're looking for work or for clients or anything like
Mhm.
that. So do you think your personal values have an impact on the type of organizational client you will take? And I guess the fact that you're so niche probably means yes, but
Yeah. Well, I think one of my values that I've taken through every part of my career, well, I can't not, is I um, I make it my business to deliver value to anyone who comes to me. No matter who that customer is, if I have agreed to work with you, I will deliver and over deliver value to your doorstep. And if
yeah,
I say it, I will do it. I meet deadlines. My word is my bond. That is who I be in business. I don't do well with people. I would interview most people before I start to work with them. I offer a 20-minute
yes,
complimentary Zoom where you need to get to know me and I need to get to know you. And if I can help you, I'm going to tell you. And if I can't, I'll tell you that as well. So I
yeah,
believe in that. I want every single client walking away from me saying that was great value and Jill did something good for me. Um,
yeah,
so there's other parts of our business. My husband and I do some motivational speaking as well because of his career in ultra endurance and his
yeah,
success in ultra distance. And again, I would say that reflects our organization, our little business values of really talking about integrity and courage and the will to find the next mile is really what we talk about in the endurance world. And
Yeah.
I find that comes through everything I do, is the willingness to find the next mile. What is that in you that we can bring out that's going to carry you forward, make you better, perform better? So that's a long way of saying someone has to want to perform better at some aspect of their life to work with me. And I think that's what.
Yeah. Excellent.
More succinct there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Okay, I'm just going to ask one more question. So have you got any advice for people? And I put women in particular, just because everyone I speak to says that women are really, really underrepresented, particularly in the sporting industry. So any advice for people who are looking to work in the nutrition field within sporting, really?
Yeah, I would say to really, it is an industry that is driven by marketing and by products and by the promise of performance. So it is an industry saturated with biohacks, quick fixes, and take this drink and have this much. And so it would be to really know your science, really value the integrity of the body when it comes to performance, and decide what kind of voice you are going to have in that industry. That is saturated by marketers and marketing.
Right, okay. Yeah.
I would say in particular, the performance nutrition, there's a lot of cultural, strong beliefs about women, bodies, and limiting performance and what you're capable of. And I would say, again, know yourself and check your own cultural beliefs, check your own belief system around what's possible in performance and how you want to fit into that, I think. And I would say that that's advice that crosses the older I get, the more I would say, know what voice you want to have in that industry. And you don't have to know it right away, but if you go into the industry with that open question, what is my voice in this industry? Who do I want to be? I think that's a really good open question to live with in your 20s and 30s, to be honest. I really think it is.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I think from my point of view, I think another thing would be and it's loosely what connected what you just said about limiting factors. So I know I spoke to a few people before about nutrition, and I think this is why I put it off for so long. I am vegan, I have been for a long time, and lots of people say you can't possibly be a marathon runner and be a vegan, and of course that's ridiculous, but I know you were really open to that and did lots of extra research and things like that. So being open to what the clients want as well, I guess.
Yeah, and I really do believe there are multiple ways to eat. There are multiple ways to get the basic nutrients you need to sustain life and to perform extremely well.
Yeah.
And one thing I really rail against are really food zealots who, like, my way is the best way and the only way, and you must do it this way. I think that's so restrictive of a body and of a mindset around how you choose to nurture your own body, So there are no limits to food philosophies. You just have to be organized around it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so just finally, are you taking on clients at the moment? And if so, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I am taking new clients. I have certain open spots per month for new clients to come on board for a starter month or for a 3-month package. I really do recommend before you decide, let's get together on Zoom and talk about what every client's needs are. Best way to get in touch with me is either DM me on my LinkedIn page or jill@teamjoebarr.com.
Brilliant, thank you. And I've just shared your LinkedIn page here, so people want to get in touch, then here is Jill's page.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting. As you can see, I've still got loads of questions. Thank you to everyone that's been watching, whether it's now or on catch up. And if you do have any questions, please do put them in the chat. If there's anything you want to ask Jill, then put them in there also, and I will let her know. So thank you so much, Jill. It's been really interesting.
Well,
okay, so next week, no problem. Next week, I'm back with someone else from Northern Ireland. So next week is Louise Brogan, who's LinkedIn consultant, podcaster, YouTuber, and LinkedIn trainer. She's based in Belfast. Hopefully, Jill and Louise are going to connect, which is lovely. So looking forward to that as well. So again, thank you so much for watching, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.